So, D&D fans, it looks like Wizards of the Coast has finally announced their next book for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, releasing this May, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So we already have a few bits of information floating around out there, so let's talk about what we know and what we should expect to see in this release for Tome of Foes. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. Welcome, adventurers. What's going on, guys? My name is Cody. This is Taking20, a channel about all things role-playing games, and I hope you guys are as excited as I am about the next D&D 5e book, Tome of Foes. But before we jump in and talk about what we know so far about the book, let's talk for just a moment about the man on the cover, Mordenkainen, and who he is. You might recognize the name Mordenkainen from a few spells in 5th edition, Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, Mordenkainen's Private Sanctum, Mordenkainen's Sword, and everyone's favorite spell to say, Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion. So if you haven't guessed it by now, yes, Mordenkainen is in fact a wizard. Mordenkainen is a wizard created by none other than Gary Gygax for his home game of Greyhawk when he finally got the chance to sit on the other side of the screen. As Gary was wont to do with several of his home group's characters, Mordenkainen's story began to get fleshed out more and more, and he became an integral NPC in the world of Greyhawk, eventually going on to reach, quote, 20-something levels and form the Circle of Eight, which is an alliance of powerful wizards inside the setting. So fast forward a bit, and when TSR got their hands on Mordenkainen and the setting of Greyhawk, this circle became redefined as Mordenkainen and the Circle of Eight, and their main focus being the preservation of the balance of power between good and evil and law and chaos. So that begs the question for why Wizards of the Coast chose Mordenkainen as their frontman for their new Dungeons & Dragons 5e book. And the simple reason is because he just fits perfectly with the Tome of Foes thematically, which means that will be very telling on what will be included in this new book. And then as we dig into the press releases and the recent Mike Merle's interview, we'll get a better picture of what all is going to actually be inside. Okay, so here is what we know so far. The book's page count will total 256 pages, which is an extra 14% larger than Volo's Guide to Monsters. And then over 130 of those pages will be dedicated to monsters and stat blocks. So it looks like we're looking anywhere between 52 to 58% of the book will be dedicated to monsters. And this falls right in line with Volo's Guide, which came in right at 54% of Volo's Guide to Monsters being dedicated to those stat blocks and to monsters. In addition, Mike Merle's mentioned several times that Wizards of the Coast looked at a lot of feedback from Volo's, and that the one thing that they heard over and over was the need for higher CR creatures. So we should expect that over half of the monsters in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes will be a CR 10 and up, something that Wizards of the Coast really wanted to focus on with any type of new monster manual. Now, something that will be different about this book is that it will also take the time to flesh out the setting more, even for players, meaning that unlike Volo's Guide, which only delved into monster lore and monster stat blocks, Tome of Foes will also flesh out some of the backgrounds on common races. Mike Merle specifically gave us tidbits that a player should be able to read the section on dwarves and really understand what it means to be a dwarf. And the same thing goes for diving into the relationship of the drow and other elves as well. Because Mordenkainen is not good or evil, but rather focused on the balance between those two forces, we should also expect that the monster manual bits of the book to dive not only into evil creatures for our players to fight, but also good ones as well. So this book will also take a step back from kind of the small conflicts of the material plane and low-level foes that Volo dove into, and give us a bit more information on a much larger, grander scale. So we're going to get information on planar subraces, the GITH, GITH, the Blood War. We're gonna get information about Devil Society, and for Dungeon Masters, it should give a lot more information just on the planes and how they work in general. This is something that I personally am very happy to see, as I felt that even though a lot of this stuff was touched on in 4th edition, 5th edition has seen a large influx of new players, and I really thought it was time for Wizards to give that kind of information the 5th edition treatment. So it looks like we're going to get more information on demons and devils, but not a lot of information on the divine. So even though this book looks at the cosmos, we clearly aren't going to just get detailed information on all the planes. It's going to be much more focused than that. Now, one thing that I am actually a little torn on is the decision to delve further into the basic races. I think that if there is a large portion of the book dedicated to that, then I'll be a little disappointed. Anything over 15 pages on mountain dwarves and Eladrin, I just personally think is a bit too much, because, you know, we've already had the player's handbook, the very undersized and underwhelming Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and then even Xanathar's, which was really kind of a player's handbook too, a PHB too. So the shorter that Wizards can keep this information in Tome of Foes, the better, in my opinion. Though we know from Mike Merles that Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes will in fact touch on both Morden and Corellian, so I expect that we will also get a bit more information on the deities tied to the core races as the book dives into their individual histories. Now, I'm also a little surprised at the very, very subtle shift here from Wizards in targeting both players and Dungeon Masters with this book. In the past, whenever a book has been released, it has had a clear audience. Adventure modules, those are for DMs. Volos, aka Monster Manual 2, that was for DMs. Xanathar's was loaded up with player options, and even the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide was targeted at people who wanted to know more about the setting overall. But with Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes clearly having monster stat blocks while also including information for players about core races, to me it just seems a little bit like they're trying to artificially force the book to be more appealing to players than it might have been if they just focused the content more like a true DMG2. But I have been thoroughly impressed with the direction that Wizards of the Coast has taken with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition so far, so I'm just going to continue to trust in their overall vision until I'm given a reason not to. So what do you guys think? Are you excited we're finally getting some info on other planes? Do you think that we are in need of higher CR monsters? Or are you a little disappointed that we didn't get something else, like maybe a new adventure module or even info on a setting other than the Forgotten Realms like Eberron or Dragonlance? So let me know what you guys think about this book down below. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. Every week I put out new videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. I want to give a huge thank you to all of the kick-ass patrons over at welcomeadventurers.com. Thank you guys so much for making these videos possible. If you guys want to support the show, you like what I do here, head over to welcomeadventurers.com and you can sign up for rewards of your own. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.